I've been in the exact spot you're probably in right now, scrolling through endless listings of center channel speakers that all promise crystal clear dialogue, booming mids, and a sleek look that will blend into your living room. You click add to cart because the pictures look great, only to end up with a speaker that either sounds thin, overpowers the rest of the system, or just looks out of place on your TV stand. That kind of disappointment is why I'm doing this deep dive, so you can avoid the usual buyer's remorse and actually get a speaker that lives up to the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about why the center channel is the unsung hero of a home theater setup. It handles every line of dialogue, every lyric, and the bulk of the on-screen action that sits directly under the picture. If it's off, the whole experience feels off, no matter how good your left and right speakers are. That's why you can't just grab the cheapest model that fits the cabinet space. You need something that can stay clear under the demands of movies, sports, and gaming without sounding harsh or getting lost in the mix. Enter the Klipsch RC643. At first glance it's a typical Klipsch-styled cabinet, a sleek black ash veneer that looks right at home beside a modern TV, with that classic Klipsch badge that says you're not dealing with a generic OEM part. But the real story is under the grill. The speaker uses an all-new 1-inch titanium compression driver coupled with a 9090mm compressed molded rubber Tractrix horn. In plain English, that combo is designed to push air efficiently, giving you a louder output without needing a massive amp. In my own testing, that meant I could drive the speaker from a 100-watt AVR and still get the kind of presence that made movie dialogue pop, even in a room with a lot of ambient noise from an open window. The 4.6-inch cast basket cerametallic woofers are another piece of the puzzle. They're not the huge subwoofer drivers you'd find in a dedicated bass module, but they're big enough to add a respectable low-mid punch that you actually feel when an explosion happens on screen. The two-way network crossover does the heavy lifting of blending the highs from the compression driver with the mids from the woofers, smoothing out what could otherwise be a jarring transition. The result is a speaker that can keep a superhero's catchphrase crisp while still delivering the rumble you expect from a big-budget film. Now, let's get real about everyday use. I placed the RC643 directly under a 65-inch 4K TV, a few inches away from the wall, and gave it a little tone angle so it points straight at the listening position. With a couple of simple AVR settings, a small room-level offset and a slight high-frequency roll-off, the dialogue in The Dark Knight was so clear I could hear every nuance of the Joker's monologue without having to crank the volume. During a sports game, the crowd roar felt spacious, not like a thin whoosh you sometimes get from cheaper centrals. In gaming, especially first-person shooters, the directional cues from the center speaker helped locate enemies that were speaking through the TV speakers in the background. There are practical trade-offs you need to consider before you click buy. First, the horn-loaded design does give the speaker a forward-leaning sound that can border on bright for people who prefer a warmer tone. If you have a bedroom or a small apartment where the walls are already reflective, you might notice a slight shimmer on high-frequency effects. That's not a defect, just a characteristic of horn-type designs, and it can be tamed with a gentle EQ reduction around 810 kHz. Second, the cabinet is a bit deeper than a typical thin center channel. If your TV stand is narrow, you'll need a little extra clearance, or you might have to mount it on the wall. The weight isn't trivial either. The speaker feels solid, which is great for durability but means you'll want to secure it properly if you're putting it on a shelf that isn't anchored. Power requirements are another hidden factor. Because the compression driver is efficient, you don't need a powerhouse amp, but you do need an amp that can handle a low impedance load without clipping. Pairing the RC643 with a decent AVR that has a dedicated center channel gain control works best. If you try to drive it from a tiny stereo amp or a low-budget receiver, you'll notice distortion at higher volumes, and the supposed clarity will disappear. Who should buy this speaker? If you're a home theater enthusiast who already has a respectable left-right pair, perhaps even a Klipsch set, and you want the center to match both visually and sonically, this is a solid choice. It's also ideal for gamers who demand clear voice chat and precise positional audio, and for movie lovers who hate missing a single line of dialogue. The premium wood veneer means it won't look like a cheap box, so if you're living